Alright. Hello guys, what's up? I'm going to be doing a Susano guide. I did a Hunbats one, so I'm just gonna be continuing going down the line, and I think a lot of people requested Hunbats or Susano for the next one, so that's what I'm gonna be doing. Similar to the last one, I'm just gonna kinda go over everything for the god, and yeah, that starts with explaining Susano abilities. I'll just go up to 12, but to 20. But yeah, I'll put this on normal cast to see. But basically, Susano 1 is a 3-part ability, where first there's a little cone, and then there's a circle around him, and then there's a dash. It generally does pretty good damage, especially with auto cancels. I'll get into like trying to cancel the ability more so later on, but yeah, that's more or less what it does. Yeah, so it's like damage and a dash as well. And then Susano 2, I guess putting a normal cast just to see is not bad. It's also a cone, but it ends to pull, but it doesn't pull on the sides. It only pulls on the middle bit of the cone. So yeah, it does decent damage. I think it just got a scaling buff recently, but yeah, it pulls in the middle, a nice little pull to him. Yeah, so that's Susano 2. Susano 3 is it's another mobility ability. So you can toss it out and then you can teleport to it. I didn't teleport there. Okay, actually, I trolled. I want to get rid of this to show the importance of teleporting to the target. But yeah, Susano 3, you can send it out and then you can teleport to it. But the thing about Susano 3 is that whenever your 3 is on a target and you teleport, it halves the cooldown of it. So it's pretty important to hit god targets or minions, I think it's on minions too, with the 3. Because yeah, the difference is half the cooldown, which is really big actually. So yeah, you can see that cooldown there. It went to like 9 seconds or 8 more or less. And then if you just toss it out and then throw it, it's up to 16, you know. So there's a big difference, and Susano 3 is a really good auto cancel. It's the best in his kit as well. And then his ult, this one normal cast 2. I guess I didn't do the 3. I can show it real quick before I show the ult. But yeah, it's just a circle at the end. And yeah, that's a 3. So yeah, the ultimate is a big circle that charges up over time. I don't know the exact time it takes. So it doesn't really say exactly, but there's a little window where it charges up, and then once it does more damage the longer it charges up, and then also at a certain point it'll knock up when it gets half its duration, I guess. So yeah, you can watch it get bigger, and you send out knocks up. Let me go reset it again. Nice, normal cast. If you instantly send it, it'll do less damage and it won't knock up either. So you kind of want the sweet spot of where it charges up a little bit and then it'll knock up, you know? So it's like I said, it's halfway charge up point. And yeah, that's the ultimate. And then the passive is basically you just get bonus power or damage as you use your abilities. Basically your abilities stack up whenever you hit gods. And then at 4 stacks you get 25 damage and then scales too. So yeah, just a little bit extra damage. So yeah, those are Susano's abilities, and then I'll try to go into the best ways to use them in fights. I'll go reduce the cooldowns now. So generally, I think it's Susano 3 usage is the most important for him. But first I'm going to go into auto canceling with his 1 because I get a lot of questions about that. So I don't know why I'm getting this, but yeah. So basically, I use all of Susano abilities on instant cast, and I think it's easier to auto cancel with his 1 on instant cast too. But the entire time I'm auto attack canceling, I'm holding my left click button down, you know. So basically auto, like my finger is not coming off of the left click button, which is your autos, and I also right click just to make sure. I'll try not right clicking and see what happens. Yes. Yeah. See, if you don't right click, then the things appear and it gets a little awkward. That's why holding down left click's fine, but you need to cancel them to auto, you know? So yeah, you left click, right click, while pressing 1s in between. That's how I do it. Let's see. I'm still trying to get the hang of like explaining it, but yeah, left click 1, right click 1, right click and then 1 again whenever you want to dash. If that makes sense. So yeah, I think the best way to do it for that is to hold your left click down the entire time if you're just auto canceling the 1. Honestly, that's the same thing for all of his buttons. That full combo that I did right there, I held down the left click the entire time. So yeah, that's the best way to auto cancel in my opinion. And then you right click whenever you want to cancel the part of the ability, which is in between each one. So yeah, that's how to auto cancel with Susano 1 and his abilities in general, or just overall. But yeah, I think when you go on carries and you want to blink on them, it's generally pretty good to just blink 3, and then you kind of get the time to see what they're gonna do. Most of my 3 shouldn't be up, but because I'm expo down. But yeah, you kind of get the time to see if how they're gonna react. If they're gonna jump away instantly, maybe they thought they could beat you on your 3 usage, and then you can follow a jump by teleporting to it. Or if they don't jump away, then they're just gonna eat all your damage or have to use relics. And if they use like Aegis while you're like wanting, then you have the ability to just toss your ult out, right? Maybe they're Aegising there. Okay, no, that's weird. Then you can ult, and then yeah, you have potential kill after that. There's a lot of different unique ways to use Susano abilities, but I think they all kind of centralize around the 3 usage, you know. Ideally, you want to be able to teleport to their escape with your 3. Sometimes it's fine just to follow later on, and then get in range to dash pull, you know. So you do have that option, but like I said, if it's possible, it's really good to get your 3 on people for the extra damage, of course, plus like free cancel and the reduced cooldown on teleporting in with it. But yeah, outside of that, I think it's important that you don't just like stack your 1 like this on your knockup of your ult, because the ult's the most translated part about Susano Kit, so it's the most easily like beadsed or Aegis thing, you know. I meant Aegis so. Oh, whoops. Stacking your damage on the ult knockup is when things can go bad. If you know they don't have relics, it's perfectly fine, and you know like that way you don't waste damage either into like their jumps or something. I would be a little careful about knocking them up and then using all your buttons, because like I said, yeah, it's easily the most translatable part about Susano Kit. Other than that, it's his pull, which people tend to beads or Aegis also, but Aegis doesn't do too much, mainly beadsing that is good. But yeah, outside of that, I think I would just kind of mess around with these bots even, and just practice your like kits and just do it, see what feels good. You can do max cooldown, doesn't matter, but yeah, I just get used to auto canceling even on these like Odin bots, because you can get pretty clean with it. The 3 is a really good auto cancel on camp clear. That's the button that I start with personally. You can like blink on the mage coming into lane and then group up the wave and then 3 everything there. Yeah, next I guess I'll just go into his builds. I think it's going to be pretty similar to Hunbat's. In general, this is my favorite start. Okay, let me restart this. Hold on. I like Bumba's hammer into mace. Pretty much on most gods right now, this is how I feel like you should be building. I is still fine, but yeah. I just prefer the Bumba Spear upgrade compared to Eye upgrades, even though they're not too bad. And I think Bumba's is pretty good for farming, especially with the camps getting a little tankier. I think it's a little bit better. So yeah, after that, it's really ideal to go Crusher on Susano. The attack speed actually feels really nice for his cancels compared to not having it. I can maybe show without that too. I mean, it's not that different, right? Auto cancels make attack speed not as relevant, but even still, like, weaving in extra autos in between, like teleporting, you know, or even like this part, getting some extra autos before dashing, it just feels good. And the Crusher procs are really easily procced on everybody. You have pretty good AoE as Susano, so I think Crusher's really good on him if you can go it. Obviously, Brawlers, you need a lot of comps, but I think you could see the Brawlers till later. I think Trans is just really good right now, like I said before. And Susano scales really well, so he has a lot of power, a lot of scaling. Or yeah, just a lot of damage in his kit, his scaling's really high, so the power on Trans is just very good with him. And then I think Titans is really cool. I tried not to delay Titans past 3rd item, I think, but yeah. And then a lot of times you'll need Brawlers. Heartseeker is obviously really good. Erendite's a really good item, so maybe you don't need Brawlers, you could go Erendite. Bumba Spear I think you should always have. I kind of grief the order a little bit. A lot of times, I'll sell this too and go Bumbas. you'll probably maybe end up something like this into Heartseeker, or if you don't need Brawlers, I'd probably put the Heartseeker in this slot, and then luxury item last. It could be Erendite, it could be Magi's, Mantle's not even too bad on him. But yeah, generally I think those are the items you're going to be looking at. Like I mentioned on Hunbats, Hydra's is also fine on Susano. Obviously with auto cancels, Hydra's is going to come into play, but equal to Hunbats, you just have a lot of AoE in Susano kits, so I do think that Heartseeker is just really strong on him because you're going to hit multiple people, you know, very easily with your ult. Even with your 1s and your 2s, it can happen. Probably not that likely on your 3s, but yeah. The Heartseeker procs are just really strong right now, and I think with the way people are building with health and a lot of prots, I guess you have percent anyway, but health is the main thing. Health's really high in the game right now, so Heartseeker just feels good, especially with multiple targets. And your ult just be really will just be chunky. So yeah, strengths and weaknesses of Susano. He definitely does have weaknesses, but I think they're mostly strengths. For junglers, he is one of the best ganks for junglers. He is a little bit weak pre-5 and pre your first item, but even still, it's not too bad, you know, because your pull and displacement, your damage is not really awful either. You probably don't want to look to gank that much until you have your ult online or like your first item spike because it's so good, but you can definitely gank and find kills. It's really not too bad. Like it's definitely way better than like a Hunbats or maybe even like a Daji, for example, with the displacement of your 2. But it's not exactly what you're playing for always, you know. So yeah, once you get your Crusher Spike, I think Susano's has one of the best Crusher Spikes in the game. His full combo can almost 100-0 most gods, and having your pull and such high mobility is really good for gank potential. It's hard for people to get away in like the long duo lane, and Susano, or in solo lane the pull is really effective. Basically everywhere it's effective. And yeah, you can kind of just full kit people really easily. And then also Susano is really good scaling as well. Later on he can, like without his ult, he can full combo people, so he's not as ult reliant as other gods like Hunbats. But his ult is really strong at the same time, so. But yeah, with people without like relics, his pull into 3-1 definitely can one-shot really easily, especially with Hydras, but even without it, I think you won't have too much of a problem one-shotting. With relics, it'll be a little awkward, and one-shotting can be hard with people having really well-timed Aegises, so you should just look out for that and try to be a little less all-in and like save your dash 3 out if possible, if you think people are going to Aegis your pull, for example, and you don't have ults, but yeah. For the most part, you can kill through Aegises with ult. And yeah, outside of that, I don't really know what I'd say his weaknesses are. I think sometimes he can be easy to go on, and like, even though I think he does have good ganks, his actual straight up like 1v1 earlier isn't always the best against some gods, like maybe like a Pele or something can out pressure you, so I'd be a little careful with that. Or like a Daji type of thing, but yeah, for the most part, pretty all-around strong the entire game. Obviously no CC immunity anywhere, and without like a clear jump, sometimes the 3 can get blocked, but yeah, I guess that's what I'd say would be his main weaknesses. That kind of does lead into matchups, which I kind of slightly hinted at. But yeah, for his jungle matchups, I'd say one of his worst ones is again Daji, just because of his lack of CC immunity. And she has knock immunity on her two as well. So Susano pull and ult, you can't really get the CC value that you could against other targets. I think also Nemesis can tend to be pretty bad because yeah, she can shield a lot of your damage as well. Maybe you can pull Nem shield, but I think it still takes the damage from it and is a little awkward to 1v1 Nemesis. But past that, I don't think anything's too bad. Maybe like a Rat could be awkward or a Ravana, but I think you can manage those matchups in most scenarios. For his good matchups, I think most are pretty neutral. I've been liking the Susano to Lancelot matchup if you're both full tank, because one of Lancelot's biggest strengths is that he can just always be safe and ult out. But if you pull the Lancelot and he's not on his horse, and then you 3 onto him, you can threaten damage before you ult out, and if you ult out, you can chase, so then commit your ult afterwards. and get him off his horse really quickly if he's full damage. If he's like soloing or maybe tankier, it's a little awkward, but for full damage Lancelots, I think he actually has pretty good a matchup there. And yeah, maybe the more pressury jungles, like when Erlang and Osiris are meta, he can struggle a little bit, but generally I think he is quite good against most things. And you have the ability to kind of, just with his mobility overall, it's pretty easy to get out of most situations, and you can play avoid the jungle and just play for ganks, you know. So yeah, outside of that, I guess we're into team fights here. So yeah, for Susano team fights, I would say generally you do also have the option to both play aggressively or defensively. Um, Similar to most assassins, like I mentioned with Hanbats is also good with it, but yes, having your big AoE ult allows you to kind of do both, because I think his ult's actually really good defensively when people when people are trying to engage on your carries. When you're getting gone on, it feels pretty bad to ult defensively, and a lot of times you'll just get a lot of poked. Maybe you can turn it. But yeah, when people are like engaging on your carries, if you're kind of back there with them and you ult, you can kind of ult through their frontliners into their backliners and kind of stop uh, their like progress or get Aegises that way. I think it feels pretty good. Or you're really good at diving as well, you know. If people don't have carries, you can just absolutely global them and one-shot them. Or I meant relics if I said carries. Oops. Yeah, if people don't have relics, you can definitely just kind of global them. Even if through relics you have the potential to kill if if you're not like 1v2, you know. But yeah, using your ult can be a little awkward sometimes when you blink in. Ideally, you can blink and then like 3, and people are threatened enough that they'll use their relics, and then you can ult and like hit them after. Or you can kind of ult once you blink in pretty early to get their relics if they're not using them. But everything's pretty quick, you know, with Susano. Between like dying or not, it's a little harder to be less committal. There are the opportunities to just dash pull frontliners, maybe, if you're feeling really safe or you have a Magi's, you know, and then maybe your team can poke them really hard off it, but it's also pretty threatening, so I'd be a little careful. Try to make sure you have Magi's, or you really aren't in threat from their carries for some reason, or the frontliners are really bad matchups into you, you know? But that is one option you can play things too. Um, but yeah, I think Susano thrives in general against mages, so that's where I would look to kill. I would look to target their mage. He can definitely kill hunters, but it gets a little sketchier when they like crit or things like that, because he's kind of full committed and they can kind of one-shot him. So yeah, definitely try to target their mages, I think, and he's definitely decent in 1v1s depending on matchups. There's certain gods that are going to be really awkward, like I mentioned, Nem and Daji as bad matchups. I think those gods probably will just win 1v1s. Other gods might as well, but depending on relics and things, he definitely has the ability to. Like, he can one-shot off pulls, so I wouldn't be like shy away from them. But it's not like he doesn't thrive necessarily. Generally, though, assassin 1v1s outside of certain matchups, it's kind of about who gets on who first. So if you can get on somebody first, he definitely has the potential to win them really easily. But yeah, outside of that, I think team fights will a lot of time come down to good 3 usage, like I mentioned. It's a lot of damage if your 3 can hit, and you can play things differently with like teleporting to gods, following their escapes, etc., you know. Let me know if there's anything you think I missed or yeah, should have covered. And I guess also let me know what god you think I should be looking to put a guide out for next. I'll try to do a commentary like I did for Hunbats. I think I got one out now if you missed that. So if not, but yeah, let me know what gods you want to do to see a god for next. And yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it.